Sawatdee, Chanin, how are you doing?
Great, Sawatdee Cup.
Sawatdee. So today on the Data Nerd Herd, we have Chanin Nantasenamat from Thailand.
Yes.
So welcome.
Mhm.
Hopefully I said your last name
It's a
right
big
too.
pleasure to be here.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, you've had quite a few friends in here. So now you're next on the roster. So yeah, thanks for joining. It's awesome to have you on. So for people who don't know who you are, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. So I work full-time as an associate professor of bioinformatics at a research university in Thailand. And my part-time, my 5 to 9 is uh, I'm working as like a YouTuber in data science where I make tutorial videos. And I also started to blog about like 1.5 years ago. So I'm part-time blogger as well.
Nice. So teaching, blogging, videos, it seems like a lot of work. So that's awesome. I mean, walk me through your, I guess, your path into data in the first place. Like, how did you get into bioinformatics?
Yeah. So actually, it started back in during my undergraduate years. I was doing a bachelor's in biomedical science, and actually, I was searching for a project to do for my undergraduate thesis project. And actually, there was a potential advisor who mentioned that there was a data set that he already had on like the epidemiology of the incidence of malaria of some province in Thailand. And the thing is, he said that I don't need to do any lab work. Just take the data and do some analysis on it. And so back at the time, because I was like a biologist, and the thing is, I wanted to go into the lab and do something to prepare some experimental work. And so I declined that opportunity. And so that was like the first time or first chance to analyze data, which I thought was a bit boring because I'm not getting my hands wet. I'm not going to the lab. And so I declined that offer. And then fast forward to during my PhD years, I was doing my Doctor of Philosophy in medical technology. And so, like, the first year of PhD was a bit of a challenge for me. So, I actually quit one time, and I was thinking of pursuing my PhD in the US because, like, my family is there. And and the thing is, I mean, after 2 to 3 months of quitting, I decided, I mean, I would have to start all over again. I mean, if I would go to the US, I would have to do some prerequisite courses. And so I decided that I would, just head back to the same program, and which I did. And then upon entering back, I mean, because like the first year was a bit challenging because like the lab work was not so successful. So most of the experimental work failed. I did some gene cloning, which is kind of like performing genetic engineering, where I would take like some novel peptides and try to implement that into the fluorescent protein, which didn't really work so well. And then I have like what do you call it? Not like a successful project, but then I managed to summarize it into a poster, and then I presented that at a international conference. And then luckily, I met one of the newly graduated researcher who pretty much mentored me for the initial phases of my journey into data mining. Because back at the time, it was back in 2004. The term data science was not yet coined. And so
Right.
at the time, yeah, it was like data mining. And so I could remember that my co-advisor, he gave me this book called The Neural Networks in Chemistry. And so
Interesting.
that was like my first exposure to data science or data mining at the time. And so at the time, I used this software called Weka. And so it
Oh
is like a
yeah,
point and click software.
yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
so
that.
no
It's old
code.
school.
It's a no code software. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so pretty much like self-teaching myself how to do data mining, like downloading a lot of research articles, trying to piece together like the protocol from several hundred articles, because at the time there were no one doing data mining at my university.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty much like alone. And so I relied on Googling, and also reaching out to some professors in the US via email, and pretty much learning from the peer reviewer as well. Like when we submit the paper for publication, like sometimes the reviewer will come back with a lot of useful suggestion, and or they could reject the paper, and our paper, we would have to revise the paper, and then by revising the paper we would implement new algorithms, or figure out how to use a new software, or figure out how to use a new methodology for feature selection, or how to better split the data. And so it was like an iterative process over, like the course of the next 2 to 3 years of my PhD. And yeah, and then ever since then, I mean, I've been stuck into, I mean, not stuck, but I'm, what do you call it, anchored into this field of data. And so I pretty much became passionate about data, and explored more into programming, coding, algorithms. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. It sounds like you have a very, I would say, rich history in sort of the early days of machine learning as well, and the techniques involved. So it's a different perspective, I would say, too, because back then I think things were just generally harder to do. You didn't have a lot of resources. You didn't have a data professor showing you how to do stuff. It was like a few crappy articles, and software wasn't where it is today either. So, I mean, how did you what was your process in terms of trying to keep up with the field then back then, and trying to learn new techniques in the absence of the sort of information that you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, like at the time, I don't think YouTube was around, right? So, I mean, I would have to rely on going to conferences, and then sometimes conferences would have tutorial sessions, or another would be I would pretty much drive myself to a university where I know that there is like a researcher who had, graduated neural networks, or AI, or some, related technology. And I would drive there and talk to the professor, and, like via conversation, learn from them. Maybe they would recommend like some resources or tools. So back at the time, I remember that one of the professor recommended me to take a look at this software from SPSS. It's called Clementine, and it's like a point and click software. So you could build classification models, regression models. And so it was a bit more advanced than SPSS, by the same provider. And they provided some functionality for machine learning. And so I relied more on like GUI softwares and Googling. Yeah. So at the time there were no YouTube, or Medium was not around, so no blog post. And so, yeah, relying on, I remember that there was like this website, like, I'm not sure about Stack Overflow, but there were like email threads. I would remember looking through email threads. Yeah. They would have this thing called computational chemistry list, and we would subscribe to the email list, and then, like ask questions there, or read questions and answers that other people have asked.
Right. Yeah,
Old
that was
school
a thing
stuff.
back then. It was super old school.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, so you also, kind of fast forwarding to today, I mean, you do the Data Professor show. I mean, I would say these two worlds, the one you just described where you're on this like news list, and compared to, YouTube these days, I mean, they're almost two different dimensions. I mean, so, fast forwarding, I mean, what got you into creating content about data science?
Yeah. So at the time, before becoming a content creator myself, I remember subscribing to Grish Naik's YouTube channel, and also I saw a couple of videos from Kenji. And I mean, that was like in 2019, like beginning of the year. And then like also beginning of the year, like before that, I would just primarily go to YouTube for, like entertainment videos or like something from Mr. Beast or, but not really into academic or data science stuff. For academic stuff, I would, just hit the literature, read some articles, and then tune out by going to more entertainment style video on YouTube. And then I started to notice some videos about data science from Chris Nikes and Kenji. And then that pretty much started like the click. And also my daughter, jokingly, she was like watching a couple of cartoon videos on YouTube, and she was kind of like saying, like, why don't you make your own channel? And then that started to, give me some ideas. And then I kind of procrastinated for a while there. So I bought some gear, I bought some camera, I bought some equipments, like just to kind of like delay my start to hit the record button, because at the beginning it was pretty it was like a pretty scary endeavor. And I remember the first video that I recorded was about this time, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Everyone is already asleep. And I mean, me and the camera, like it's kind of like that. It's kind of like a weird feeling, talking to yourself. I'm not sure whether the video that you're putting out, would anyone care about that. And so it took me a while to hit the record button, and then just, upload it to YouTube, and everything went okay. Yeah.
So you're gonna have like stage fright with your
Exactly.
own stage. Yeah. Interesting. And then did you suddenly get like 100,000 followers from like your first video, or?
Actually, I was like under 100 subscriber for 2 months or 3 months. And every day I was like looking at the subscriber count. It's like, okay, today is 62, tomorrow 62, the other day 63. So it was like pretty slow. And then at the beginning of the year of 2020, I released a video for like to teach about like more general videos about like general strategies for learning data science. And then I started to post on various Facebook group pages on data science, machine learning. And then I remember that over the weekend, I was like, just upload the video, and then drove to another province, like on vacation. And I would be looking at my YouTube studio from the phone, and I'm like, wow, today we got like 100 subscribers. I mean, like by getting 1 or 2 subscribers a day, and then getting like 100 subscriber or 200 over the weekend, I was like blown away. I'm like, wow. And it was like my first time posting like promo advertisement, not really advertisement, but posting the link to the video on YouTube, on Facebook. And then I started to think, hey, what if I post to more social platform like Twitter or other group pages? Yeah, I mean, it worked, but then one thing is I got banned from from Facebook about twice, because they were thinking that I was spamming. I was posting, like several group pages, like maybe in 1 minute intervals, and so they banned me for 2 weeks, and then I had to rethink my strategy. Okay, maybe posting on 1 or 2 group pages would be enough. Yeah.
That's funny. Interesting. I mean, where do you come up with a lot of the ideas for your material?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I also had I also have this like worry that maybe one day I would run out of video ideas, but the thing is, with each video posted, subscribers would post their suggestion, like, why don't you make a video about this? Why don't you make a video about that? And then I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. And I'll just jot that down, make like a to-do list, and whichever that I think I could provide value, I would make a video about that. And so, yeah, I mean, all the ideas are mostly coming from subscriber, or another would be like, other social influencers on LinkedIn. Like let's say that maybe Danny Ma would be talking about this Python library, and I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. Or how about Philip Volley?
Yeah.
He's a big influencer on LinkedIn, and he has this big pipeline where he used NLP to scrape information on the latest Python libraries and packages. And yeah, so the packages that he posted are pretty awesome. And I'm like, okay, I would love to make a video about that library. And so yeah, so from LinkedIn, other social platform, and from their subscriber.
That's crazy. Yeah, and I just looked at my phone. You're up to like 78,000 subscribers now, which congratulations. That's cool. With only 212 videos too, which ain't that many. I think compared to other places, but the production quality has always been really good. I've been really impressed with it too. So
Thank you.
yeah, it seems to encapsulate, I think, a lot of the whatever I guess the YouTube algorithm like wants you to do, you're doing it really well. So
Thank you.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, how does this tie in with the teaching work that you do too? I mean, do you are the topics that you go through on YouTube, are they kind of orthogonal to the stuff you teach at university, or are they similar?
Yeah. So that's actually a great question. So the thing was, like, at the beginning, I was trying to like manage, like, how would I coexist for this YouTube endeavor to coexist with my daytime job. So the thing is, if they are sharing resources, then it would be a lot easier. Otherwise, like, if I have to create content that's outside the domain that I normally do, then that would take a lot of effort. So the thing is, like, for example, when I'm giving a lecture, I would take the video and I would record the sound. And yeah, I would remember when that was like during the early stages of my YouTube channel. I would take my camera, I would fix it on a tripod, and then I'll just record the video in classroom and ask the student for permission. Like, is it okay if I record this video and I'll put it to YouTube? And if students are okay with that, I'm okay, I'll record it. And so, like, the couple of videos, the production quality was not that great. Audio, I mean, our audio was pretty terrible. And then I pretty much learned along the way, like, okay, how to eliminate reverb, or how to eliminate, how to use, Audition to remove the noise. And so the thing is, trying to use, like, lectures that I would normally do as, like, document that and make a video about it. Or another would be make a video that I think could be used for my own research project that I would normally have to do, and put a spin to that, and make it into a blog or make it into a YouTube video. So pretty much like putting one effort into it, and then I could use it for research publication. I could
That's
create a
cool.
blog article. I could also have a YouTube video out of that as well. Yeah, trying to maximize that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you ever, I guess, use the videos that you put on YouTube? Do you ever use those for your class as well? Sort of in reverse.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So the thing is, like, for the classes, I have to make it like a live class, and so I would do the other way around, like to record the live classes and then use that to upload to YouTube.
Right.
But then, like, some of the classes that I'm doing right now, like every day, I'm teaching an introductory Python course right now,
Oh, cool.
and so that is taught in Thai, and so it's not compatible for the YouTube channel. Otherwise, the subscriber would be what is happening? I mean, it's Thai audio, Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, I want to talk about Thailand more in a bit, but it's the I guess, how does that translate? I mean, you teach, you teach it in a global audience with a lot of your YouTube content, but then you also teach, obviously, at a Thai university. What's your impression of how, I guess, the tech ecosystem, or I guess the knowledge of tech in Thailand compares to maybe what you're seeing outside of Thailand?
Right. So actually, in the field of data science, I mean, the field is very vibrant. It's very booming right now, and so there are a couple of data science influencers in Thailand, and there are a couple of YouTube videos and channel as well. And I would say they're pretty much reflecting what the international community is. And so, I
That's
mean,
cool.
pretty much the same on LinkedIn as well. And yeah, but the thing is, I haven't really been focusing too much on the Thai audience. Um,
Right.
yeah, so maybe that would be a pretty interesting opportunity as well to maybe create some Thai versions and maybe have another YouTube channel like Data Professor Thai version channel or something like that. Not sure if anyone would be interested in that.
I don't know. It's a weird one. Thailand, I look at stats on Thai rock groups, for example, or pop bands. They have
Okay.
like 400, 500 million views for their videos. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen the same thing, but it's crazy because in the States, bands don't get that sort of attention.
Mm.
I noticed in Thailand, I traveled there a lot before COVID because my dad lives there. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, he's an American. He pointed out the same thing. It's like, you got to see this. This is crazy. These Thai bands, I have no idea who they are. He's like,
Yeah.
500 million views for their videos. I'm like, what?
Hmm.
That's bananas. That's like what like Snoop Dogg would get here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. You might hit on something there actually because I think because it's a local audience and you're like a local rock
Hmm.
star, you might actually get asymmetric attention. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously you're not a pop band
Right.
teaching Python and data science, but who knows? I mean, it might be an
Hmm.
interesting experiment to try that out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's worth trying. And the crazy thing is, like the other day, I was looking at the YouTube announcement. Like they have like the top YouTube channels, like how many YouTube channels exceeding 1 million subscriber, and Thailand is among one of the top 10 countries in the world with like the most, like 1 million plus subscriber. And I think they're like top 10 for more than 1 million and maybe like in the top 20 or 30 for, like overall. So there is a big audience in Thailand, but then mostly they're not really into educational content. So most
right.
are like into gaming, into more entertainment. Music videos is also a big thing as well, as you mentioned.
Well, yeah, I noticed because I haven't seen anyone there. Like I use Spotify here in the States for my music, but over
Uh,
there, I notice everyone uses YouTube.
right,
It
exactly.
just queue up playlists, and that seems to be sort of the
Mhm.
default. I think one, it's like really it's free, but
Right,
but yeah, it's everywhere.
right.
Yeah, whereas I think in the United States, at least, people are definitely have different apps for different things, but it seems like YouTube there
Hmm.
is pretty much like the app everyone uses for like all
Hmm.
entertainment, unless you
Hmm.
like bootleg a Netflix subscription from your American friends or something. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So actually, yeah, yeah. So like, I think for the past 5 years, we have Netflix, and
Mm,
I would remember before pre-Netflix era, I would, like try to figure out like, is there a way to, like use VPN or something like that to access? But the thing is, I pretty much didn't do it, and so I just stick to YouTube. And now, I mean, so Spotify is already in Thailand. They have like a local
nice.
version, so they have like Thai advertisement. Like everything's localized to Thailand as well. Um, YouTube also has like a division in Thailand as well. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, many of the big companies are localizing, like a Thai version, a
That's
website
smart.
and all that. Yeah, yeah.
That's smart. The thing I'm
Even
impressed with,
PayPal, yeah.
what's that?
Even PayPal,
Oh, that's cool.
they're launching a Thai
Smart.
version as well. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it's
But I
smart. I
noticed
mean,
that some content from US PayPal and some content from Thai PayPal version, if I switch the language, some pages are not accessible.
oh,
Like maybe
interesting.
like they're localized for Thailand only or for the US only. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, in general, I would say Southeast Asia and Thailand's definitely, I think, leading, the pack along with Singapore in this area where there's just so much growth there. Every time I go there, I'm blown away by how even things like mobile phones, like I think mobile phone
Mhm.
usage there and just the way people use phones is
Right.
actually more advanced than in the United States by probably a
Mm.
few years. Because in like in Thailand, for example, I think depending where you live, but you guys didn't really have to deal with like desktop computers, for example. You didn't have the old infrastructure we had, so you just sort of like bypassed a whole generation of computing and just went to straight to phones. And like my mother-in-law there, she I don't think she's ever had a computer actually,
Okay.
ever, but she has a lot of phones.
Mm.
And that seems to be but yeah, so it's interesting. But what I'm impressed by is just the way technology is used there too. It just seems to be, I would say, better in some ways. So that's it.
Yeah, like the Thai people, they love their mobile phones. So there's all sorts of brands here in Thailand, and but the thing is, I mean, they're pretty expensive if you compare to those provided in the US. Like for airtime, you could have like an iPhone for free, right? But then in Thailand, I mean, it could go up to like 40,000-50,000 baht for a new smartphone. It's like about $2,000. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's expensive, yeah. Like
It
iPhones
is,
are the
yeah.
same price there. I know my dad and I, like,
Yeah.
how do people afford that over there? I have no idea.
Right. And we're making like, I mean, comparatively less, but then the phone is more expensive. Cars are more expensive as well. So any tech gadgets or any luxury items, they're like
Hmm.
maybe 40-50% tax. And yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and when I first saw
Right.
the iPhone, especially, that's the price of it. I think looking at the average Thai wage, it's like how people afford this is, I have no freaking idea at all. This is
Exactly.
crazy. I think they just get like
Yeah.
payment plans that go on for like years and years and years and years. Because I noticed they don't really advertise like the retail price. It's always like
Right. They
monthly
do have
payment.
like installments.
Uh-huh.
Like they have
Yeah.
installments like, okay, you could buy this for 24 months or, pretty crazy, like paying installments for a phone for 24 months,
That's
like
wild.
1,000 baht. Yeah.
That's cool. How has COVID sort of impacted your teaching right now? Are you able to go into class, or are you doing everything virtual?
Yeah. So it's all virtual right now. So classes are online. So we're doing it via Zoom,
Okay,
and we make use of Google Classroom to post
nice.
assignments. And yeah.
Yeah, that's about what we're doing here too. I think you guys are getting hit a
Mm.
bit harder right now than we are, but
Right.
hopefully you get vaccines pretty soon. So
Exactly.
yeah, and how's that all impacted? It seems like you started your channel, your YouTube channel around the time that COVID was, or at least started getting popular around the time that COVID was happening. I mean,
Right.
was that did COVID help you as the data professor in terms of reaching a broader audience, or do you
Right.
think it would
Yeah,
have
that's a
happened
great
regardless?
question. Yeah, so we started before COVID. It was August 2019.
Hmm.
And then, like during the initial rumors about COVID, um, and also, I mean, the channel was not affected then. But then after COVID hit, I think more people were staying home. And so
Hmm.
maybe they're bored or maybe they want to change in jobs. And so, yeah, I noticed like a spike in viewership. And then at the time I was reached out by Kenji and we collaborated. We
Nice.
talked a couple of times. And, like before Kenji reached out, I was pretty, I would say I'm pretty like introverted. So I was a bit scared, like, okay, someone is reaching out to me. They want to talk to me. I'm like, wait, I'm pretty, at the time I was like pretty insecure. And I'm like, okay, I would be more comfortable, talking like face to face, but
Right.
online, and it's like, okay, I'm not very extroverted, and the thing is, okay, so I pretty much like postpone a lot of like potential collaborations, and then after talking to Kenji, I mean, it's like, okay, that's not really that bad, and he's pretty fun guy, and
Hmm.
and then we collaborate on a video, and then after that, he brought in more like influencers on YouTube into this Discord channel, and then I also got to know other influencers like Daniel Borg or Josh
Nice.
Starmer, and others as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really good to see
Right.
that you kind of catapulted to, into I guess data science stardom, so to speak. So Ken's a good dude. I was just talking to him yesterday, actually.
Right.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Cool.
I'm glad that it's cool talking to people like him, because I think, despite he's popular. He's a very popular
Right.
person. I think
Exactly.
he's very down to earth too. So that's awesome to see. So it's not like the Paul brothers on YouTube or something where maybe we'll all get there at some point. So that's cool. And then I guess do you do any courses or anything like that? I think it seems like a lot of people are making courses these days. Are you
Right.
doing something similar?
Actually, I'm experimenting with Skillshare. So the funny thing was, I really didn't check the regulations, and I uploaded, some of my YouTube videos in Skillshare, and then they reached out and they're like, "Wait, you're having like, some mention of your YouTube channel. You can't do that here." So I have to figure out like, okay, maybe I'll have to record new set of videos, like more dedicated for Skillshare. And so I'm planning on doing some more data science content and making it more structured and putting it on like platform like Skillshare, where I could also put in assignments in there. And so probably make it more modular, because like most of the content that I have on YouTube, they're like project based, and you could watch one video, and I mean, they're end-to-end projects, so they're self-contained. But then for the beginners into the field, maybe they need a more extensive introduction. Like I get a lot of questions like, okay, I'm getting an error, and the thing is, most of the error are coming from they're not installing the proper prerequisite libraries. And so probably I think maybe have more introductory content as well. And the thing is, it might be a bit boring for YouTube. So probably put that on other educational platform. Maybe that would be more suitable. So I'm, like playing around, dabbling around with Skillshare for now. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I think your teaching background too would just probably lend to like a really quality course. You can definitely tell. I think I can tell like the people who are really good at teaching, who like do this for a living, and when they make courses, they tend to just be really well done. So I think well articulated is what I mean. Like maybe not not even like very polished, but you can just tell like it flows really well. So I think that'd be awesome if you can do that. So
Yeah. So it's something that I would normally do at the university, and the thing is, like just making that virtual, recording myself, and just like making it into like a video format. Yeah. So yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, as you progressive data science, I mean, I suppose you're probably keeping on top of stuff and trying to push your own knowledge. Are there any topics
Right.
in data science that interest you right now?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much interested in a lot of topics. For one is how to integrate novel algorithms for drug discovery, because that's my research area. For now, I'm exploring NLP's, LSTMs, deep learning, how to represent molecule into like a higher dimensional feature space.
Interesting.
And so that could be suitably used for deep learning. And actually, I'm collaborating with one of the subscriber, and whose name is Tinam, and he's in like first year of college, and the level of his programming knowledge is very impressive.
That's cool.
And I mean, we just talked a couple of times, and then he could implement this elegant workflow. And so yeah, I think he would go on to become a pretty big researcher one day. And it's amazing meeting people that you would normally not meet in real life. Like the power of the internet is like bringing us, to network, to like for me to know you, or for me to know Ken. I mean, it's pretty magical. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's awesome too. Like, I think when everything's back to whatever normal is, like, it'd be great next time I'm in Bangkok, we can go catch up, and that kind of thing. And I think it's, yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I think over COVID, my network globally has just exploded. It was so easy, I think, to be very provincial and very kind of local minded, and that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of great people, I think, wherever you live.
Right.
But it's just now, now you got friends everywhere, and it's pretty crazy. Like, And I think it's also interesting too, just because the amount of new ideas I think that are being shared and sort of collaborated on, it's becoming, it's yielding some very unusual pairings of people that I don't think it would have happened without the pandemic, just because you would have maybe met these people at conferences,
Right.
maybe. But the ability just to meet people online, like what we're doing now, and we chatted offline, obviously, and but I don't think that would have happened.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's interesting. And then, so I'm really curious too, is like, kind of what happens with data science and the field of data, given all these new collaborations. Does this mean that we're going to see, a couple of years down the road, some even more novel approaches to stuff? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yeah. So like for right now, I think there's a lot of hype into this GPT-3, and I think it has a lot of potential. For one, it gave rise to this like implementation where it learns from GitHub, all of the
Oh, yeah.
codes over on GitHub, and it's Copilot from GitHub right now. And they're sourcing this technology, which Microsoft has taken over from OpenAI, a company started by Elon Musk. And it's pretty magical in that, like the computer could learn how to code. And, there's this idea in like a research article one time I read, like teaching, like genetic programming, kind of like a computer that could learn and teach itself. And the thing is, it's becoming a reality. I mean, I read an article like maybe 10 years ago, and it's becoming a reality right now. A computer is learning, is creating art. Like 10 years ago, I saw this article about like, okay, there's the computer, it could dream, and it uses deep learning to dream about images. And it's very becoming more advanced right now. I mean, who would have thought that, like GPT-3 algorithms could generate text? I was trying this one day. Like, for example, I would type in the question, what is data science? And then I was pretty impressed. Like I tried a couple of services right now. They have like Jarvis, which was previously known as conversational AI, content bot. And I mean, there's a couple of other. So I just type in like, like the question, and it would generate like a blog outline for me. And it's amazing that it provides the content that I would normally do, but then it gets all of that data from the internet. And then there was one of the platform, it even suggested like, okay, if this particular bullet point, you could get the content from another article. And then it has this, like text summarization. So you could essentially summarize the content of that blog post instead of reading it. And then you could integrate that into your article as well. And then it could also perform, like paraphrasing of text as well. I mean, which is like in an area of NLP. And so like the other couple of months ago, I was talking jokingly to my friend, like I would like to write a program that could write a paper automatically. Like I have a set of data and it would write, like a summary text that explains the content of the figure. And so probably, yeah, so that maybe that's my pet project right now. Like figure out like how to explain this plot or how to explain this table and make a paragraph to explain about it. I mean, that would greatly lower the amount of time required to write an article. And so we could then focus more into, collecting data, creating data, because the writing of the story, the thing is we could provide it with initial ideas. And I mean, computer, they're smart enough to take that initial idea and, like pretty much like that game, MATLib, you provided like some starter sentences and then it'll fill in the blanks for you. Yeah. So an idea that I'm pretty much dreaming about right now.
That sounds really cool. What do you think that would do to human creativity?
Yeah, I mean that is also another issue as well. Because the thing is, who would claim the ownership of the product, right? So that's actually a tricky question. But the thing is, an idea, like for example, when I'm doing research, most of the time we would figure out ideas, but then most of the time we wouldn't do any action on that idea because it would require significant effort to turn an idea into a product. Like, for example, I mean, like, I would say, okay, this is an interesting idea, but then the thing is, it would take action, it would take effort to make that idea a reality. But if we have something to help us, like, we just feed in the idea to a bot, and what if it could materialize something, and then we could work on that, raw material, which has let's imagine that it's like a sculpture. It has a rough, like a rough sculpture, and then we just add the features to make it more distinct. And so I would say, I mean, the idea comes from the human being, but then the refinement of the content that the bot is creating, I think it requires a lot of work to make it into a readable form. Like even the text generated from the bot, I mean, we have to be careful. It might be creating gibberish content as well. It's also like, like referencing people having said a particular phrase, but the thing is they never say that, like I try to validate that by Googling. I mean, they could say like Benjamin Franklin said this, but the thing is he never said that. And if you're publishing that, I mean, it could come back and backfire on you. So it's like the content created, I mean, we would have to double check that, of course.
Well, especially in today's age of disinformation, that's the thing that concerns me about things like GPT-3 and deep fakes and whatnot. It's just, I mean, it's already hard enough to know, what is actually, real news, fake news, disinformation, and now when you pour the gasoline on the fire, so to speak, or like jet fuel on the fire, it's kind of like it'll be interesting to see where this goes. And the other thing I thought about too, while you're talking, is like, what if these AIs just start making content for each other instead of humans? And so that might be an interesting thought process too, because then it's more like kind of this almost becomes this I don't know if ensemble's the right word, but maybe they start excluding people from the conversation entirely. They're like, it's like, yeah, we were going to make this for you, but you're not that interesting anymore. So yeah, it's in Thailand, is there much of I know in the US, we're notorious for having issues with disinformation right now, and on social media, it's being cracked down upon.
Yeah, same here as well.
Okay,
right, exactly. Like sometimes I would hear something like, okay, my friend would say, okay, like there's this news, and I would be a bit careful. I'm like, okay, is that fake news or is it real news? So becoming a bit more paranoid. Yeah, it's also here as well.
Okay, so if it's there, I suspect it's a lot of places this way. I can't think it's unique to any country at this point. Yes, I mean, I don't know. For me, that's what's on my mind when I think about the power of like GPT-3. I think on one hand, it's a very powerful technology, and on the other, it could end up making society more interesting than it already is, I suppose. So it's crazy. Kind of switching gears a bit. I mean, you're really popular online, and people ask you, will see you online. Like, what do you do when you're not online?
Right. So what I do when I'm not online. Okay. Let me see. Okay, for one, I would late at night, I would maybe watch Netflix while writing an article, or while editing a video, or while coding something in Jupyter Notebook. Like it's a bit challenging. Like pre-COVID, I would be teaching, and by the time I get home, I would spend time with family. So the time that I have for content creation would be 10:30 or 10 p.m. and beyond. And then that's essentially it. And so the thing is, even if I have 5 minutes, like that 5 minute, how will I use that 5 minutes? Short break, maybe at work. Okay, maybe I'll have quick lunch and I'll have like half an hour. Or if I reach my workplace, like maybe half an hour earlier, I would record a short video.
Wow.
And then I would upload it to Google Drive. And when I get home, I would download it and, do a short edit. Yeah, and remember that the initial phases, I would spend 2 weeks to edit one video. And I'm getting I'm getting quicker now. And before it was like, okay, 2 weeks, one video. And then it's becoming, okay, 1 day, one video. And it's becoming, okay, 4 hours for one video. And now it's like 2 hours. And then I'm making it now to be less than an hour. And so I'm
Interesting.
using Python to automate because normally I would do
Really?
jump cut. Yeah, I would
Okay.
do jump cut. I would do it normally in manually in Premiere Pro. Like with the razor cut. Like cut here, cut here, cut here.
Yeah.
Select this segment, delete it. But now I have this, coding something in Python, and it'll automatically chop the sequence. And if the noise is, below a threshold, it would automatically remove it. And so I have less to chop. So no more chopping. I'll just listen one time through. And if anything is, like maybe I said something wrong, I would delete that segment. And then that would take maybe less than an hour. And so now it's
That's cool.
a bit quicker. Yeah.
Interesting. Why did it take so long when you're first starting out, like 2 weeks to make a video? And is there sort of perfectionism that you had, or like what?
Right.
Walking through that to today, where it's you're under an hour almost. So
Yeah. So initially, I would have the camera in front of me and I would record my screen. And then I would have to align them in the Premiere Pro. And then I would have to, like resize the camera to be smaller, putting it at the lower third. And then I would have to denoise the background. And then I would have to do color grading. But then lately, I didn't do that. So I just record the screen, and it's just my voice over the screen.
right.
And so no more aligning of the video. And I'll probably do like a 5-minute camera introductory and outro, intro and outro. And so I'll just paste that into the beginning and to the end of the video. And so the actual content is just the screen and me talking to the screen. That's all. And so I mean, like experimenting with many format, and I discovered that that's the quickest way to make content. And I could record intro videos for 3 videos in one sitting, and I would just chop that and then put it in, kind of like making it into a batch. Yeah, so
That's
creating
really
batch
cool.
content.
And the
Yeah.
engagement's still the same or better, or has that
I
changed?
noticed that if I have, if the video have me, like if they see my face, if the audience see my face, then the engagement is more. If it's only me talking to the screen, the engagement is a bit less. And so the middle ground is to have like an intro and outro of me talking to the camera, and then I'll be like, okay, let's dive in.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I got booted.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we're still recording.
Okay.
So awesome. Just make sure to cut
All
this
right.
part. Cool. What were you saying?
Yeah. So where were we?
You're talking about intros and outros. Sorry.
Right. Intros and outros. Yeah. Yeah. So I discovered that, based on trial and error, I would, figure out that the best video format for me would be to record me in the intro and the outro, and then I'll just, paste it to the beginning and to the end of the video that I recorded, showing only the screen. And so that provided me, like it'll take less time to create the content.
Yeah.
And so maybe I could spend like a day or two on that particular video. But the thing is, I have to balance blogging into that as well. And so I've been talking to another blogger on Medium. Her name is Kuyen Tran, and she's pretty big on Medium, and she has a lot of great contents on LinkedIn as well. She's pretty active there. And so
I've seen her stuff.
after
Yeah.
talking to her, I'm pretty motivated to, head back to Medium and create more contents there. And then I pretty much try to figure out like, okay, how can I turn one content into a Medium blog post and also into a YouTube video? And also lately I'm trying to make it into a research article as well. And so I think I might publish an article, like in a traditional research journal. Hopefully I could, have this dream of publishing in one of the Nature article journals as well. And so maybe I'll talk about like data science, you know, data science in YouTube on YouTube, and or maybe educational content on data science on YouTube. Maybe that could, not sure if that would be interesting to the publisher, but yeah, I'll give it a try. And so that would also probably raise awareness in the academic community, because like most of the data science YouTuber are coming from industry and not a lot from academia. The other from academia that I know of is Josh Starmer. So he's a professor in bioinformatics, and he's also creating a great and awesome channel, StatQuest. And
Oh yeah, that one's great.
yeah. But I started to notice that there's a lot of like differences of like the tech stacks of people from industry or from academia. And so I found that those coming from industry, their tech stack is pretty solid. And from academia, we're more into theory. We're more into like, so the thing is, we don't really code it ourselves. So actually, before becoming a content creator, like if I have an idea, I would talk to my graduate student, and then he or she would be coding that implementation. But then after becoming a content creator, it's like, okay, would it be fair if the graduate student would help to code some of the tutorial? So it's like, okay, I have to code the tutorial myself. And so I think that was a great learning journey for me as well. It's like, okay, before I would outsource it to the PhD students or master's student, but then now it's like, okay, you have to do it yourself now. And it's like, okay, something that I would think is like a pretty easy task. It's like, wow, this took the entire day or 2 days to implement. And then, pretty much, appreciating the, like the hard work and debugging of the code. Yeah. So,
That'd be really
like
interesting
the
to
thing
do
is, yeah, it's like if we don't get to do something, we don't know how difficult it is. It's kind of like when we watch YouTube videos. Before I was a content creator, and I would feel like, okay, it probably wouldn't be that difficult to make a video. But then once I became a content creator, it's like, wow, like even to make a 15-second intro, it's like, to make it awesome, it could take, like a professional, like a whole team to make a 15-second intro. And you started to notice these subtle like features on YouTube, and we started to appreciate more the hard work and effort that goes into creating content. Yeah,
There's a lot of hard work in this, as we both knew. That's awesome.
right.
Well, cool. I think we're coming up on time, but it's been great talking to you, Chanin. It's awesome. And for people who want to learn more about you, how can they do that?
Right. So for one is you could head over to YouTube and type in data professor, or you could go to medium.com, type in data professor. And so you'll see my content there. So I mostly talk about data science and also the application of data science and machine learning into bioinformatics, particularly into drug discovery.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Anyway, yeah, I'd love to chat again sometime. If we're in Bangkok, which hopefully will, maybe even as soon as this year, we'll definitely hit you up. So, cup and cup.
All right.
We'll talk to you later. Okay.